Good morning, I'm Stephanie Dreyer, the founder of Batch Cooking Club, a weekly vegan meal prep membership that makes mealtime easier. I'm so happy to be in my kitchen with you today. We are making this week's, we had a new plan drop yesterday with a spaghetti squash casserole featuring our Italian quinoa meatballs. So I'm going to demonstrate how to make that for you today. And before we get started, I just want to give a big shout out to any of our members or anyone in our community that is watching. Thank you so much for tuning in. We're so happy to have you here. And if you want to learn more about Batch Cooking Club and you are new to us, I'm going to give you a little background on who we are and what we do as I go through the recipe. So to get started, and I should note I will be posting the link to this recipe in the description after we finish the live, so you can get the full recipe then. If in case you want to follow along, if I have any members following along, grab your plan. We drop new plans every Wednesday because the idea is that you get our meal plan, you finish, add in any additional meals for breakfast and for lunch, and any other dinners, because we give you 4 dinners a week. And then on Thursday, you finish that up. Friday or Saturday, you go to the store, and then Saturday or Sunday, you meal prep. We give you a plan. So basically, you get 4 dinner recipes, and then you also get a meal prep plan with an additional 4 to 6 recipes that speed up the meal prep for those 4 dinners during the week. So for example, for this spaghetti squash casserole, you need spaghetti squash. So in our plan, we have you roasting that ahead of time. And we also have our Italian quinoa meatballs. So we make those on the weekend. So then during the week, when you put this spaghetti squash casserole together, it comes together in just about 15 minutes. And I'm going to show you how to do that right now. So these Italian quinoa meatballs, this is our members. Ooh, and I got my shallot and my garlic going. So I'm just going to give it a little zhuzh. It's starting to get really fragrant. I have a tablespoon of olive oil and 1 shallot and 2 cloves of garlic cooking in there. So for this recipe, our members also get our Italian quinoa meatballs. But if you're making this recipe and you're not a member, you could just use any plant-based meatball, any meatball, or any vegan beef, a pound of vegan beef. And we're gonna season that with the garlic and the shallot and some Italian herbs, just your favorite Italian herb seasoning blend. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just going to crumble these meatballs into my pan. And so what we normally do with Batch Cooking Club, and I'm just using my hands to crumble these up, nothing fancy. You could chop them if you want, but I think there's nothing like getting your hands dirty when you're cooking in the kitchen. So what we do every week in Batch Cooking Club in our plans is we give you one recipe that you double batch and use in 2 different ways. So this week it's these meatballs. We're serving them with marinara sauce and a Brussels sprouts and romaine salad with Marcona almonds. And then we're also repurposing them in this spaghetti squash casserole. So we like to give you more bang for your batch, less time in the kitchen, but more good homemade food. So we usually double batch. Type a yes in the comments below if you like to double batch and have less work in the kitchen and get more meals prepared for the week. So I'm just crumbling this, and we're gonna add our seasoning and some salt and pepper, and then we're just gonna kind of cook that up. Now these meatballs already had some Italian seasoning in it, and garlic and powder and some really yummy good stuff. So we're just doing a little bit of salt and pepper and herbs to give it a little freshen up the flavor profile in there. So we're just gonna cook that in there for a few minutes. And while that's warming up, let me talk to you about spaghetti squash, which can be quite intimidating. So you need about 2.5 cups of spaghetti squash, and I've got one here for you. So what we have outlined in our plan this week is you'll actually roast this on the weekend so you can save yourself time. But you can see, about the size that I have here. And the hardest part of roasting a squash is slicing it in half. So make sure your knife is super, super sharp. And I like to rock it, like enter in the blade and kind of rock it back and forth very carefully before I can kind of break it open and then open it completely. You scrape out the seeds with a spoon like you're carving a pumpkin, and I just put a little salt and pepper and roast it cut side up for 30 to 40 minutes. You want to watch it and see, you don't want to overcook it. So once you have it roasted, you're going to get a fork and you're just going to see how it becomes like spaghetti. It just kind of, it's so fun. I think this is a great activity for kids. This is a great way to get your kids to eat a squash, if you will, because you can, in my opinion, like my kids would love this, but I'd have to, what am I trying to say? I work in a little bit of spaghetti too, so when I'm cooking like regular spaghetti, I might just toss a little bit in there so that they get a kind of both. I do the same thing with zucchini noodles. I mix it. But this recipe is really, really good on its own. So it's a great one to try on your kids if they're not big squash fans. And these meatballs are so flavorful. So the next thing we're gonna do, so you have your squash ready, you're gonna set it aside, is you're gonna take some tomatoes, 28 ounces of crushed tomatoes. This sauce, to me, it just makes it. You don't even need to buy a jarred sauce, just some crushed tomatoes and 1 tablespoon of balsamic vinegar. And we're just gonna bring that to a slight boil. Oops, a little overboard there. This is such a savory sauce. And I will say, you guys, the type of tomatoes you get makes all the difference. Yes, I am a snob about my tomatoes. I am using the best right here. San Marzano, I'm using the best right there. I feel like that really, it makes a difference in the quality of the products that you use. You're building layers of flavor. So this is a great recipe of building layers of flavor. We have our spaghetti squash that we just seasoned with salt and pepper. We have our meatballs that were layered with flavor that we then added into a pan with shallots and garlic. And now we're adding more flavor with the balsamic vinegar and the crushed tomatoes. So this is, you just want it to go to boil, and I think it's already there. I'm gonna pull this off of the stove, and I'm gonna stir in my spaghetti squash. So like I said, you only need about 2.5 cups. So depending on the size of your spaghetti squash, you can reserve it, just keep it in a Tupperware. You can do so many things with spaghetti squash. You can saute garlic, kale, sun-dried tomatoes, artichoke hearts, some olives, and then throw in your spaghetti squash, and you have kind of a Mediterranean dish. Sprinkle a little vegan Parmesan cheese on it, or vegan feta. You can mix this up in bowls. There's so many different ways you can use spaghetti squash. Comment yes below if you love spaghetti squash. I'd love to know. So this is about like a little over a cup here. I'm gonna do this and see how it just comes right out. Okay, so we're gonna do that. And actually, you know what? I'm like, what's clicking? I got a fun shirt on today. I've got like little bows hanging with fun little jewelry on the end, balls on the end. This one I think is, I can't believe it. I picked the perfect size spaghetti squash. This is, I think, going to be just perfect. You can just eyeball it. Basically, you don't want to you don't want to have too much spaghetti squash. You want to have enough where it's evenly distributed is what I'm trying to say. So we're just mixing this in, and I'm trying to spread it out a little bit without making a mess for you guys. And let me tell you, while I'm mixing this up, the other recipes in this week's plan, as I mentioned, we drop new recipes every week. You can go to our website, batchcookingclub.com/this-week. Every Wednesday, we post the plan that drops that week. So if you want to see what you'd be cooking on the weekend to eat for the following week, you can do that. So in addition, I mentioned the spaghetti squash casserole. I mentioned the Italian quinoa meatballs with the Brussels sprout salad with Marcona almonds. We also have an autumn frittata, vegan frittata. It's made with tofu. We also have an option to make it with chickpea flour. All of our recipes always include nut-free, soy-free, oil-free, and gluten-free options for if it's applicable in the recipe. So you don't ever have to worry about allergens, and you don't have to worry about picky eaters either, because we have an ingredient substitution guide that gets updated every week. So there's always an option for an ingredient For example, if you don't like cilantro or you don't like parsley, we give you alternative options for that. So that autumn frittata is delicious and it's so beautiful. We use delicata squash, carrots, and parsnips that we roast on the weekend, and then the frittata comes together in just about 15 minutes. Okay, so, and I'm missing, red lentil tortilla soup. So this time of year, I'm really inspired by hearty, warm soups and stews, and so I wanted to create a lentil tortilla soup, excuse me. I wanted to create a tortilla soup, but I wanted to give it a different spin with red lentils, and I have a little secret ingredient in there too, as our members know. So that's the lineup for this week, and you'll be batch cooking the meatballs, the spaghetti squash, the soup you can make in advance as well. And what else? And those roasted vegetables. That's all you're making. You can also make the salad dressing for the Marcona almond and Brussels sprout salad. So this is how it is. It's all cooked through. And you could eat it just like this if you wanted to. This is going to be lunch for me today. I'm excited. Not the whole thing, obviously. And then you want to get a casserole dish. So I'm using this one here, and you're going to spoon it into your casserole dish. Oh, and I should say, if you want to try us out, if you're still not sold, you guys, our memberships are $10 a month. That's it. You get 4 new recipes plus those 4 to 6 batch cooking recipes every week, and a grocery list, and private Facebook community, and it's only $10. So if you're still not convinced, head over to batchcookingclub.com/free, and you can try us for a week for free and see what you think. So the last step in this actually there's 2 more steps, but it's gonna bake, and then I'm gonna talk you through the other one. Cheese. Okay, so let's talk about dairy-free cheese. Vegan cheese, in my opinion, gets such a bad rap. There are so many delicious options out there on the market now, and there's soy-free options, there's nut-free options, there's so many different options. So I have 2, when it comes to mozzarella, I have 2 favorites that I love. Miyoko's Creamery has a smoked mozz and a regular mozz that comes in a ball, and unfortunately they were out at the store because I wanted to show that to you. It's my absolute favorite. But these shreds from Violife Foods that has a lot, they also make a great Parmesan. This is one of my favorites, and they're not paying me to say this. I'm literally telling you what I like to use. So this is, and I'm looking at it here. This has, I wasn't sure if it was, and I believe it is. Yep, it's soy-free. It is soy-free and gluten-free and nut-free. Miyoko's uses, I believe theirs has nuts in it, but it's soy-free. So these are my 2 options. So I'm just gonna sprinkle some on top and put this in the oven for about 15 minutes to melt. That's pretty much it. It's already heated through. You already saw it was already cooked. You can go as crazy as you want with the cheese. I love me some vegan cheese. Okay, so I want to show you the last step. This is going in the oven for 15 minutes. I will not make you sit here with me while it cooks. But I do want to show you, I garnish it with some fresh basil, and I want to show you how I make a chiffonade, which is a little fancy. Okay, in that goes. And move this little spaghetti squash out of the way. Okay, so I have my basil leaves. You need about a ½ cup of basil. And, smells so good. So I'm just gonna stack these on top of each other. I make a little pile, and you all want them the same way. And then I just roll the leaves towards me. And I make a little roll, a little caterpillar roll kind of. And then I'm gonna make very thin slices. You could also just tear the basil if you wanted to. I like it like this because I feel like it's a little pretty, and I feel like it releases the aroma a little bit more too. So as you can see, it comes out in these little curls. And when it comes out of the oven, when the casserole comes out of the oven, we will garnish it with this fresh basil, and it will give, again, another layer of flavor, another pop of flavor to the dish. It's all about layers of flavor with this dish. So I hope you're super inspired to swap out spaghetti squash with some of your favorite pasta dishes. And like I said, you can always do half and half or do a ratio spaghetti squash with the pasta. It's a great way to add in some plant power, step back from the carbs a little bit, although I love me some carbs. But it's also a great way to introduce your kids to some new fall flavors that they may not normally eat. Do we have any questions? No questions. So let me tell you a little bit. I talked about the weekly menu that we've got going on. If you have any questions and are watching this in replay, feel free to put them down there. We're here every week profiling, like I said, one of the recipes in the plan that drops on Wednesday. And that way you have the weekend to shop and prep and all of that, so during the week your dinners come together really easily. I also want to invite you to join us over at Batch Cooking Club on Instagram, and you can connect with me over at Veegmama, VEEGMAMA, on both Instagram and Facebook. I am also a mom of 3 and a plant-based meal planning expert. Hi Jack, that's my dog. And so I share a little bit of behind the scenes about what I do here at Batch Cooking Club, but I also share some meal planning tips and meal ideas that I use for my family. Again, we give you 4 dinners a week, but you still have to, figure out breakfast and lunch and those other 3 meals. And I give you lots of ideas and strategies on how to do that over on my personal site. We do a little bit of that at batchcookingclub.com too. So I'm so excited to have you join me. Thank you for watching. I hope you'll try this recipe. And if you do, drop a comment and let me know how you liked it. Have a great week.